Maxwell, a good-looking young man, smiled at her. "Hello," he said. Grace paused and smiled back. "Hello, young man." Maxwell's eyes scanned her from head to toe. "You're beautiful. Very beautiful." Grace blushed. "Thank you, handsome." "I like older women," Maxwell said, stepping a bit closer. "They know what they want." Grace's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" "Yes," he replied. "Let's meet tonight." Grace licked her lips. "You can come to my house. I don't have a husband. I'm single and free. Let me be your sugar mommy." Maxwell laughed and nodded. "Say no more. I'll be there." Grace walked home like she was floating on air. She couldn't stop smiling. When she got home, her daughter Sophia was sitting outside. "Mama, why are you smiling like that? Did the king finally agree to marry you?" she teased. Grace sat beside her. "Forget the king, he's confused. Guess who I met?" "Who?" "His son," Grace said proudly. "Maxwell. He told me I'm beautiful and that he loves older women." Sophia jumped up in shock. "Mama, you're such a bad woman. So it's not the king anymore, now it's the prince?" Grace chuckled. "If the king is wasting my time, his son won't." Sophia clapped her hands. "So now it's the prince? This is wild." Grace nodded. "We will deal with all the useless men in this village, one by one." They both burst into laughter. "What happens next will shock everyone. But before we start, let's do something fun. Comment your location below. Let's see who's watching from the farthest place." All right, let's begin. For the next few weeks, Grace and Maxwell continued their relationship. He came to her house almost every night. She cooked for him, washed his clothes, and gave him everything he asked for. Maxwell was handsome, charming, and sweet with his words. Grace truly believed he loved her. One evening, they sat together in her room after dinner. Maxwell was quiet, visibly worried. "Baby, what's wrong? You've been so quiet," Grace asked. Maxwell looked at her seriously. "I want to tell you something serious." Grace touched his arm gently. "Tell me. Anything for you." He took a deep breath. "If you do this for me, I'll marry you immediately." Grace's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Yes," Maxwell said. "But it's not a small thing. It's big. Very big." "Tell me," she said. "I'm ready." He looked her straight in the eye. "My father refuses to die. And until he does, I can't become king." Grace blinked, confused. "What are you saying?" "I want to be king, Grace," Maxwell said slowly. "And I need your help." Grace frowned. "What kind of help?" He leaned in closer. "I want you to help me live him." Grace jumped from the bed. "Jesus." "What?" "Keep your voice down," Maxwell warned. She stared at him in horror. "You want to kill your father?" "I'm tired of waiting," Maxwell said coldly. "He's old. He's weak. But he refuses to go. He won't hand over the throne. I begged him, tried to convince him, but he won't listen." Grace held her head in disbelief. "No, I can't do that. Never." Maxwell stood up. "So after everything I did for you, this is what I get?" "Please don't talk like that," Grace begged. "I love you, but not that way." He turned to leave. "Then we're done. I'm breaking up with you." Grace panicked. "No, please, baby. Don't say that. I'll think about it." Maxwell stopped and smiled as he walked back to her. "That's my baby. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me." Grace nodded slowly, heart pounding. Her heart was beating fast. "I just need time to think," Grace whispered. Maxwell leaned in and kissed her forehead. "Think fast. I'm serious." That night, after Maxwell left, Grace sat alone in the dark. She was sweating, her hands trembling, her heart heavy. She didn't know what to do. If she said no, she would lose him. If she said yes, she could lose everything. Meanwhile, back in the city, life had changed for Richard. Since leaving the village with Daniel, things had become peaceful. He focused on his business, and slowly, he started smiling again. One evening, Richard met a beautiful young woman named Anita. She was calm, respectful, and hardworking. They met at a supermarket when she helped him pick up his dropped bag. Conversation led to another, and soon, they began seeing each other often. Within a few weeks, Anita became a regular presence in his life. She came around to help with cooking and cleaning and treated Daniel like a younger brother. She didn't care about Richard's money. She liked his heart. Daniel noticed the change in his father. Richard laughed more, dressed better, and looked younger. One Saturday morning, Daniel sat with his father in the living room. "Daddy," Daniel began. "Yes, son. When are you getting married?" Richard smiled. "Married? Where is that coming from?" Daniel looked serious. "I see the way you look at Anita. You like her." Richard chuckled. "Yes, I do. She's a good woman, but I still need time." Daniel nodded. "Because of Mom." Richard sighed and looked away. "Yes, your mother made her choice. She left us and followed her own path." Daniel paused. "But, do you still think about her?" Richard was silent for a moment. "I do. Not because I want her back, but because I trusted her. I built a life with her, and she threw it away." Daniel looked into his father's eyes. "Daddy, will you ever forgive her?" Richard took a deep breath. "Yes, I will forgive, but I'll never forget." Daniel placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "You're a strong man, Dad. I'm proud of you." Richard smiled and placed his hand over Daniel's. "Thank you, son. You've been my biggest blessing." Daniel smiled back. "You deserve to be happy. Anita is nice. Maybe she's the new beginning you need." Richard nodded slowly. "Maybe. But I won't rush this time. I'll take it step by step." They sat there in silence, sipping warm tea, watching the sunrise from the balcony. For the first time in a long while, peace filled the house. Back in the village, Sophia sat alone in her room, holding a small piece of paper in her hand. It was a pregnancy test. She stared at the two bold lines and sighed deeply. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. She didn't know whether to cry or smile. After a few minutes, she stood up, wiped her face, and went straight to Felix's shop. He was inside, counting money and talking on the phone. When he saw Sophia, he quickly dropped the call. "My baby," he grinned. "What brings you here this early?" Sophia didn't waste time. "I'm pregnant." Felix froze. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "Very sure. I checked twice." Felix's eyes widened. Then, suddenly, he jumped up and hugged her tightly. "God has finally answered me. I've been married to that foolish woman for years, with no child. Now, God has blessed me through you." Sophia was surprised. "You're happy." "Happy," Felix shouted. "I feel like dancing. You are carrying my child, and that's all that matters. Keep it, my love. That child will be my heir." Sophia smiled softly. "But baby, I don't want that woman around the house." Felix nodded quickly. "Done. She is leaving my house tomorrow. You'll move in." Sophia was shocked. "Really?" "Yes," Felix said firmly. "She has no say in my life. She dares not open her mouth. I'm the man of the house. You and my baby are my future now." Sophia hugged him tightly. "Thank you, baby. I won't disappoint you." Later that evening, Sophia rushed home and burst into the living room. "Mama, I'm pregnant," she shouted. Grace jumped up. "What? With Felix?" Sophia nodded, smiling. "Yes." Grace clapped her hands in excitement. "That's my girl. You've done well. Now your future is settled." Sophia laughed. "He said his wife is leaving tomorrow, and I'll move in." Grace nodded proudly. "Felix is doing well for himself. He has land, a shop, and respect. He'll take care of you." Sophia looked at her mother with a teasing smile. "What about you and the prince? Any good news?" Grace placed a hand on her chest, smiling dreamily. "Very soon, my daughter, very soon he'll marry me, and I'll give him 4 kids." Sophia gasped in mock shock. "Mama, are you not too old to get pregnant at your age?" Grace frowned playfully. "Will you shut your mouth? Mind your business. Love has no age. The prince loves me like no man has ever loved me." Sophia giggled. "Okay, just don't carry twins at your age." Grace joined her in laughter. "Even if I do, I'll carry them with style." They laughed loudly like best friends. "Very soon," Grace said, "we'll both be married. You'll be the madam of your house, and I'll be the palace queen." Sophia nodded. "Mama, our time has come." But just outside the door, a woman passing by overheard the conversation. She shook her head and muttered to herself, "Two goats dancing on a cliff. They don't know they're close to falling." But Grace and Sophia were not bothered. To them, life was sweet, and tomorrow looked bright, or so they thought. Sophia moved into Felix's house. His first wife was gone. He had chased her out without warning, and Sophia took her place. She arranged the room the way she liked, moved in her clothes, and began calling herself Madam of the house. At first, everything was sweet. Felix gave her money every morning before going to his shop. "Buy food, cook something good, rest well, and take care of my baby," he'd say. Sophia would smile back and reply, "Yes, baby, I love you." But as days passed, things started changing. Felix would come home tired, sweating, and hungry. He'd open the pot empty. Look at the table, nothing. "Sophia," he'd shout. She would walk out slowly, holding her stomach. "Yes, where's the food?" he asked. She'd frown. "Don't you know I'm pregnant?" "I was tired." "But I gave you money," he shouted. "I used some. I bought something for myself. Then I slept off," she said. Felix shook his head in frustration and went outside, hungry and angry. The same thing happened the next day, and the next. Sometimes she lied that the firewood was wet. Other times she said she felt dizzy. But mostly, she just didn't want to cook. Finally, Felix had enough. One evening, he came home again to no food. He threw his bag on the floor. "Sophia, are you the first woman to get pregnant?" She came out, fuming. "What's your problem again? I work hard every day to provide for you and the unborn child, and you can't even cook." "My first wife wasn't like this." Sophia shouted back, "To hell with you and that foolish first wife. Maybe she was your slave, but I'm not." Felix's eyes widened. "Don't insult her." "I will insult her, and I'll insult you too." Sophia screamed. "If my father hadn't gone poor, a local village man like you would never have even seen me, let alone had me in your house." Felix stood up slowly, shocked. "What did you say?" "You heard me." Sophia yelled, "This whole house smells like your poverty, and your mother, who married 5 different men, is just as shameless as the rest of your family." That was the last straw. Felix's hand flew across her face with a loud slap. She stumbled and fell to the floor. "Don't talk about my mother," he roared. Sophia tried to get up, but he pushed her again. "Touch me again and I'll kill you," she screamed. But before anything else could happen, she suddenly gasped and held her stomach. "Ah, my baby," she cried out. Felix froze. "What is it?" Sophia clutched her belly, groaning in pain. "My baby. Something's wrong." They rushed to the nearby local nurse, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Sophia had lost the pregnancy. The news spread like wildfire. Some blamed Sophia. Others said Felix had gone too far. But Sophia didn't care. She was broken, hurt, angry, and ashamed. The next morning, she quietly packed her things and left Felix's house. When she got home, Grace met her at the gate. "Sophia, what happened?" Sophia didn't answer. She walked inside silently, dropped her bag on the floor, and sat down like a lifeless statue. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm done, Mama," she whispered. "I've had enough." Grace sat beside her, concerned. "What happened?" "I lost the baby." Grace gasped. "He beat me. I insulted him. I insulted his family. I was just tired. Everything became a mess." Grace pulled her into a tight embrace. "It's okay, my daughter. You are safe now." Sophia whispered bitterly, "I should have stayed in the city. I should never have followed him." They sat in silence. No more laughter, no more pride. Just pain and regrets. Meanwhile, Grace was still lost in her own fantasy. Every day she prepared food for Maxwell, wore her best dresses, and smiled like a woman already married. Maxwell would visit often, eat her food with joy, call her sweet names, and leave late at night. His touches felt real. His kisses felt convincing. And his promises, they were as sweet as honey. She believed him. With all her heart, she believed she was just one step away from becoming the palace queen. But one evening, the truth struck like thunder. They met under the big mango tree behind the school, their usual meeting spot. Grace wore her best outfit and perfume, ready to hear the big promise. "Maxwell," she asked, "when will you finally make things official? I'm tired of hiding. I want to know, what does our future look like?" That's when Maxwell dropped the bomb. "I've been thinking," he said coldly, "and the truth is you're old enough to be my mother." Grace froze. "I never planned to marry you," he continued. "I just enjoyed the benefits. You cooked for me, gave me money, shared your body, showed me love, but I never asked for any of it." He looked her in the eyes, without an ounce of pity. "You were desperate. I don't like desperate women who beg for love." Then he laughed. He turned around and walked away like nothing had happened. Grace stood there numb. Her legs wouldn't move. Her hands trembled. Her heart shattered into tiny, invisible pieces. She wiped her tears, turned around, and walked home slowly. When she arrived, she found Sophia sitting outside, sipping Gary like nothing in the world had gone wrong. Grace dropped her bag on the bench and sat down without a word of greeting. The pain in her voice was heavy and unmistakable as she explained everything. How the prince had used her, lied to her, and dumped her like garbage. She couldn't even repeat some of the words he had said. They were too cruel, too cutting. Sophia's eyes widened with surprise, but her face remained calm. She gently told her mother not to worry. "I'll talk to Maxwell," she said. "Maybe he just needs to hear some sense. Maybe he didn't mean what he said. Maybe I can convince him." Grace clung to that hope like a lifeline. She watched her daughter walk away with steady steps and confidence. In her heart, she believed Sophia was going to defend her honor. But that wasn't what happened. Sophia reached the mango tree where Maxwell sat alone. She didn't come with tears or anger. She came with a smile, slow steps, and soft words. She didn't beg on behalf of her mother. She didn't speak of heartbreak or betrayal. Instead, she sat beside him, crossed her legs, and began saying things no one expected. "You're too handsome to be dating an old woman," she said with a playful smirk. "Are you blind not to have noticed my beauty all this time?" She told him she had been in love with him long before her mother even noticed him. "My mother is finished," she added. "Out of style. Too old to handle a man like you." Maxwell laughed. Her words fed his ego. "You're right," he said. "I like them young, smart, and beautiful. I never loved Grace, not even for one day. I only used her. My plan was to get her help to eliminate my father, take the throne, and become king. But since she refused, she's useless now." He turned to Sophia with a gleam in his eye. You're different. You're young, fine, and ready. You're exactly what I need beside me when I become king." Sophia leaned in close, her voice like silk. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear," she whispered. "But no one must know, not even my mother. Our relationship must remain a secret." Maxwell agreed instantly. He told her the king was already sick and would soon die. "And when he's gone," he said, "the throne is mine, and you'll be my queen." They sealed the secret with a quiet kiss behind the mango tree. Sophia returned home that evening with a blank expression. She didn't mention what had happened. She walked into the room, helped her mother lie down, and even brought her a bowl of water to cool her forehead. Grace smiled weakly, still believing her daughter was fighting for her, still dreaming of a crown that would never come. Back in the city, a quiet wedding took place. Richard had moved on with his life. After months of peace, healing, and hard work, he married Anita, the kind young woman who had stood by him when no one else did. Daniel stood proudly by his father's side on that special day. He watched Richard say, "I do," with joy in his eyes and peace in his heart. The guests cheered. The music played. Richard and Anita danced like two souls who had survived a storm and found their rainbow. Daniel smiled, finally seeing the man he once knew, the calm, respected, and loving father, return to life again. But back in the village, a storm was brewing. It was early morning when Grace stepped outside to sweep the compound. She moved slowly, her body still aching from heartbreak. Then she paused. Two young girls were talking loudly by the roadside. What she heard next would send a chill down her spine. They were whispering, laughing, and pointing toward her house. Grace stood still, broom in hand, her ears straining to catch their words. One of the girls said, "You don't know? Sophia and the prince are dating now." The second one giggled. "That girl is Sharpo. She doesn't land palace level." Grace's heart skipped a beat. Her broom dropped from her hands before she even realized it. It felt as if someone had poured cold water all over her body. The girls walked on, still laughing, unaware that every word had reached the woman they were gossiping about. She stood there, frozen. The world around her went silent. Her mind spun, her chest tightened, and her feet moved on their own. She marched into the house, the storm in her soul growing fiercer with every step. Inside, Sophia stood in front of the mirror, admiring herself with a smug little smile. Grace didn't hold back. "Sophia!" she thundered, her voice shaking the walls. Sophia turned slowly, almost lazily, and looked at her mother with a smirk. No excuses, no guilt, just boldness. "Yes, I'm dating Maxwell now," she said proudly. She even laughed. "Aren't you ashamed? A whole prince, and you thought he'd choose you? He's too young for an old woman like you, Mama. He's mine now, body and soul." Then she added coldly, "Why don't you go find someone your age? Or better yet, beg your poor ex-husband to take you back?" Her words cut like knives. She called Grace foolish for leaving her father just because he lost his wealth. All that suffering to chase a prince who will never marry you. Shame. Grace's body trembled. Her fists clenched. The rage inside her was volcanic. She clapped her hands together and unleashed the fire inside her. "You're a useless daughter. A disgrace. A girl without sense or shame," she screamed. She reminded Sophia of her shame. How she got pregnant by a married man and lost the baby. "Your mates are in Lagos, Abuja, even Port Harcourt, working decent jobs. And you're here in the village chasing married men like a street hawker." She spat the final blow. "You are your lazy father's daughter. No shame, no future, just dust." Sophia didn't back down. She stepped closer, eyes blazing. "You're just jealous," she snapped. "Jealous because you lost. The prince is mine now. The past is dead and buried. You have no right to speak." Grace shouted again, "I will never leave Maxwell for you. Never." Sophia looked at her calmly, smiled, and whispered, "We shall see." The house turned into a battlefield. Same blood, same roof, but no love. Outside, the wind was gentle, but inside, fire. Grace couldn't sleep that night. The fight echoed in her head. Her pride had burned to ashes. Her shame no longer mattered. Her heart wanted just one thing, Maxwell. The next day, she called him. They met in secret, behind the old village clinic, under a crooked tree. Grace's hands were trembling, but her eyes held fire. She looked straight at Maxwell and made her move. "I'm ready," she said, "to do what we talked about. I'll end it. I'll live the king for you." She leaned in closer. "I can't stand the thought of you with Sophia. I love how you touch me, the way you make me feel. I'll do anything. Just promise you'll choose me." Maxwell smiled, slow, dark, satisfied. "If you really do it," he said, "Sophia will mean nothing to me. I'll marry you. You'll be queen." Grace felt like flying. Finally, she would wear the crown. That same night, under the weight of her obsession, she crept toward the palace. She knew the guards would never let her near the king. So she used her body. She seduced one of the palace guards, slept with him, and begged him to help her sneak into the king's private chamber. The foolish guard, blinded by desire, agreed. When Grace finally reached the king's room, she stood still for several long minutes, staring at the frail old man sleeping. Peacefully. He looked so weak, so fragile, almost innocent. Her hands trembled. She couldn't do it. Tears welled in her eyes and rolled down her cheeks. With a trembling heart, she turned and ran. She didn't stop until she reached Maxwell's secret hideout. Her breath was ragged, her voice shaking as she confessed everything. How she had seduced the guard, how she had tried to end the king's life, but couldn't. Maxwell's expression changed. He stood slowly, cold and unreadable, his eyes devoid of the warmth she once believed in. In that moment, Grace felt it. Something was wrong. She fell to her knees, begging him to understand. "I did it for love," she whispered. But Maxwell said nothing. The next morning, the village woke up to horror. The king was dead. Poison. Panic spread like wildfire. Guards ran in every direction. Chiefs gathered in confusion, and villagers wept in the streets. By noon, Grace and the same guard she had slept with were arrested. Grace screamed, pleaded, insisted she was innocent. "I didn't do it. I swear I didn't kill him." But no one listened. Why? Because Maxwell had proof, a voice recording, a damning one. In it, Grace clearly said she had slept with a guard and that she was willing to do anything to kill the king. Maxwell played the recording before the council. The village believed him. Grace's name was dragged through the mud, from a woman dreaming of a crown to a prisoner in chains. They locked her inside a cold, foul-smelling cell. Day and night, she cried. Day and night, she screamed for justice. But no one cared. She sat in a corner, wrapped in rags, eating one small meal a day, sleeping on the hard floor. Her mind replayed everything. How she left her husband, how she chased a prince, how she turned against her own daughter. All for what? One day, desperate and broken, she approached a kind-looking female prison officer. "Please," she begged, "let me make a call." The officer hesitated, then nodded. Grace didn't have any numbers written down, but there was one she remembered, one she had kept buried deep in her mind. Daniel's. She closed her eyes and slowly recited the number. The officer dialed it. Daniel picked up almost instantly. The moment he heard her voice, he froze. "Mom." She broke down. Tears poured. Her voice cracked. "I'm in prison," she cried. "They said I poisoned the king. But I didn't. I swear I didn't." Daniel asked what happened. Grace told him everything. Maxwell's plan, the failed mission, the voice recording. She even told him what she had heard, that Richard, his father, was rich again. She admitted she hadn't believed it at the time. "I thought people were lying," she said. "But now I'm begging you. Please talk to your father. Ask him to help me. He has power now. He can open an investigation. He can expose Maxwell. I am truly innocent." Daniel stayed quiet for a long moment. Then, softly, he spoke. "Mom, my father is married now. I don't know if he'd want to help after everything you did." Her sobs grew louder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was wrong. I see that now. I destroyed everything for a dream that never belonged to me. I don't want revenge. I just want justice and forgiveness." Daniel sighed deeply. "If you're telling the truth," he said gently, "I'll help. I'll talk to Dad. I'll see what can be done." Before ending the call, he added quietly, "But you need to understand something, Mom. You did this to yourself." She had made choices, and those choices had led her here. Grace nodded on the phone, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I know," she whispered, voice trembling. "I know I messed up. Please, just help me. I don't want to die here." Daniel said nothing. He hung up, her voice still echoing in his ears, crying, begging, helpless. That night, sleep didn't come. Her voice kept him awake, heavy in his chest. Despite everything, despite the pain she caused him and his father, he could feel her suffering, and deep down, he believed her. The next morning, Daniel walked quietly into the living room where his father sat reading a newspaper. He stopped in front of him, his face tense, his voice steady. He told him everything, from the call to the prison, from Maxwell's betrayal to the king's death. Then he begged, "Please, Dad, just find out if she's innocent. That's all I ask." Richard's hands froze. On the paper. Slowly, he lowered it. His eyes turned sharp, red with anger. He stood up suddenly, his voice booming through the house. "I will never help that woman. Never," he roared. "After what she did to me. After the way she walked out like I was garbage. After she left us for a dream and humiliated me. No. She made her bed. Let her lie in it." Daniel tried to reason, but Richard had already stormed into his bedroom and slammed the door shut. The house went silent. Daniel sank into the sofa. head buried in his hands. Moments later, Anita walked in. She saw him sitting there, broken. Her expression changed immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. Daniel looked up, eyes glistening. He told her everything, this time with tears. Anita listened quietly. Then she glanced toward the locked bedroom door. She didn't hesitate. She walked straight to it, knocked once, and went inside. Inside, Richard sat stiffly at the edge of the bed. His fists were clenched. Anita sat beside him. Gently, she held his hand. "Richard," she said, "this isn't about revenge anymore. This is about doing what's right." He didn't look at her. "She hurt me, Anita." "I know, but that was years ago. You've changed since then. You're not the same man she left behind. You're stronger now, wiser." She squeezed his hand. "If she dies in prison, and she's innocent, will you be able to live with that?" Silence. His chest rose and fell slowly. His eyes were moist but firm. Anita leaned her head on his shoulder. "You don't have to forgive her, but please help her." A long pause followed. Then, finally, Richard nodded. "Only for you and Daniel," he said. Anita smiled softly, wiped her tears, and hugged him tight. When she returned to the living room, she found Daniel still sitting on the couch, lost in thought. She smiled at him. "He's going to help." Daniel stood up instantly and wrapped his arms around her. "Thank you," he whispered, a weight lifting from his chest. There was still hope. Back in the village, the crown now rested on Maxwell's head. The people danced. Goats were slaughtered in celebration. Palm wine flowed like rivers through the streets. Drums echoed from house to house. Women sang songs of praise. The silent boy had become king. And Sophia? She followed him everywhere, dressed in royal robes, wearing jewelry that sparkled like starlight. She smiled for the crowd, waving like a queen. After the coronation, the crowd eventually dispersed. The drums went quiet. Silence returned to the palace. Sophia had waited for this moment all day, the moment they would finally be alone. She believed now that he was king, he would marry her immediately. After everything they had done, after all the pain, the betrayal, and the blood, this was supposed to be her moment. But it wasn't. She had sacrificed so much, fought with her own mother, carried Maxwell's secrets like scars etched on her soul. And through it all, she believed marriage would be her reward. That night, they were finally alone in his luxurious new chamber. The crown sat heavy on his head, and power glowed in his eyes. Sophia smiled, stepped closer, and whispered softly, "So, when are we getting married?" Maxwell turned his head slowly, and then he laughed. Not a light laugh, not even a chuckle. A loud, thunderous laugh that echoed from deep inside his belly. Sophia stood frozen, confused. Her smile faded. He looked at her from head to toe with cold disgust and asked, "Do you really believe I would marry someone like you?" His words struck like knives. "A village girl with no shame, a girl who couldn't even keep herself," he sneered. "You jumped from a married man's bed into mine. Even your mother used to share with me." Sophia's face crumbled. Her knees felt weak. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. She couldn't speak. Maxwell walked to the window, calm and cruel. "I've played my part," he said. "I used who I needed to use. Now I'm king. I don't need you anymore." He turned slightly, his voice sharper. "A queen must come from a royal bloodline, not from a broken home and dirty stories." Sophia dropped to her knees, begging. Her voice cracked as she reminded him of everything she had done, everything she had given, even her own mother. Maxwell laughed again. "Pack your things," he said coldly. "Leave before the palace guards throw you out." Sophia crawled out of the room like a ghost. Tears poured down her face like rain. She didn't know how she reached home that night. She locked herself inside and refused to eat, refusing to speak. The same mouth that once insulted Grace now remained silent. The same hands that pushed her own mother away now held her head in shame. Regret came like a mountain, heavy, suffocating, unforgiving. Back in the city, Richard sat silently at the edge of his bed after hearing Grace's full story. He said very little, eyes fixed on the floor, his mind drifting far away. Yes, she had made her mistakes, but her voice on the phone, It didn't sound like a liar. It sounded like a woman shattered by the very thing she thought was love. After 2 nights of silence and thinking, Richard finally picked up his phone. He called an old friend, a trusted man, someone who owed him a favor, a division police officer. "I need help," Richard said calmly. "Quiet work. No noise. Somebody's been framed." That was all the DPO needed to hear. Within days, a plan was set in motion. A young woman, beautiful, calm, and intelligent, was chosen. She entered the village like a visitor, her cover flawless. Nobody knew her real identity, not even Maxwell. She played her role perfectly. Quiet, observant. Maxwell noticed her quickly. The new face, the soft smile, the way she listened with fascination when he spoke. He liked women who admired him. She gave him everything he craved. They began spending time together. Quietly, carefully. She acted innocent. He acted important. He believed she liked him, and that was exactly what she wanted. Then, one hot afternoon, as they sat behind the palace under the shade of tall trees, Maxwell leaned back and smirked. "You don't even know what I did to become king," he said, pride gleaming in his voice. She giggled and touched his hand lightly. He leaned closer, more confident now. Grace was supposed to do it, but the fool couldn't. He chuckled again, lowering his voice. "I had to finish it myself. My own father." He looked her straight in the eye. Nobody would believe it. That's why I pinned it on her. He laughed again, proud, careless, and foolish. He didn't know his entire confession was being recorded. That same night, the recording was in the DPO's hands. It was over before sunrise. A black vehicle parked quietly outside the palace. No crowd, no shouting, no explanations. Maxwell was taken. Meanwhile, Grace sat on the prison bench, her eyes fixed on the ground, her hands resting on her knees. The cell door opened, and a voice called her name. "You've been cleared." At first, Grace couldn't comprehend the words. The female officer repeated it. "You're free. Your name has been removed from the case." Grace stood slowly, almost as if waking from a dream. Outside the gate, Daniel waited, and beside him stood Richard. There was no anger on Richard's face, no smile either, just a deep silence. When Grace saw them, she broke down in tears. She walked towards Richard, knelt before him, and, without any shame, whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was low, broken. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm sorry for everything." Richard looked at her, still silent, but he didn't walk away. That was enough. Daniel helped her to her feet, and together, they walked away. Meanwhile, Sophia sat outside her small village house, staring at the ground as though it held the answers to her pain. Everything around her felt cold, empty. There was no more noise, no more fake laughter, just silence and regret. Maxwell had used her and discarded her like an old rapper. She had lost everything. And worst of all, she knew it was her fault. One afternoon, she sat alone, reflecting on the rumors she had once ignored. Rumors about her father becoming rich again, about how he had become successful in the city. She had dismissed them as lies, but now she wanted to believe them. She couldn't stay in the village any longer. She had to find out for herself. The next morning, she packed a small bag, boarded a bus, and headed straight for the city. When she entered the company compound and saw the name written boldly on the building, her legs shook. Richard and Sons Holdings. It was real. Her father was really a wealthy man. She waited at the gate for hours. The receptionist initially refused to let her in, but Sophia's tears softened her resolve. One of the office staff reported to Richard that a girl outside was crying and asking to see him. Richard stepped out, and as soon as his eyes met hers, his heart sank. Sophia ran toward him, knelt down, and burst into tears. "Daddy, please." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I was blind. I followed Mommy too much. Please forgive me." Richard took his daughter into his office, where she continued crying. After a long pause, he looked at her, his voice soft. "I forgave you long ago, Sophia, but I blame your mother. She poisoned your heart. She made you believe I was nothing, and you followed her like a shadow." Sophia nodded, still crying. "I know, Daddy, and I'm sorry." Richard continued, his tone firmer now. But one thing is clear. I can't live with both of you again. I have a wife now, a woman who respects me and brings me peace. I can't bring trouble into her home. Sophia wiped her tears, nodding through her sobs. It's okay, Daddy. I'm just happy you forgave me. I'll be fine. As she stood to leave, Richard called her back. I have another house across town. A quiet place. You and your mother can stay there for now. Sophia turned, shocked. Richard smiled faintly. I'm not throwing you away. I just want peace for everyone. Before she left, Richard handed her an envelope. Start something with this. No more looking for men. Build something. Be better. Sophia took the envelope with both hands, tears of relief rolling down her cheeks. Thank you, Daddy. I will never forget this. That same day, Sophia arrived at the house, a clean, quiet compound, big enough for comfort but small enough for peace. She opened the door and found Grace resting on the couch. They both froze. No words at first, just silence. Sophia dropped her bag, walked closer, and knelt down. Mama, I'm sorry. Grace looked at her daughter, tears filling her eyes. I'm sorry too. I raised you wrong. I made you hate your own father. I made you believe love was all about money. They embraced each other, both crying. Grace gently wiped Sophia's face. If I could go back in time, I would change everything. But now, all we can do is start again. They sat together, side by side, in the house that had come from the same man they had once rejected, not as enemies, but as two broken people, slowly trying to become whole again. Did this story touch your heart? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how powerful was this tale? Smash that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a story that stirs your soul. For more heart-racing, emotional tales, tap the end screen now.